to fall, but generally speaking, that's not how you get jihadism, right? You get jihadism by the indoctrination into a specific religious beliefs, and those beliefs spread, right? People find those beliefs compelling for a variety of reasons, and if no other reason that they get drummed into the heads of kids since the moment they can speak, right? So well, this is what's happened in among the Palestinians, right? I mean, the Palestinians are a highly radicalized culture because they have taught more than one generation of kids that this is the way the world is, right? I mean, you literally have 4-year-olds being raised to aspire to be martyrs. This is in the curriculum in UN-funded schools in the Palestinian territory. So it's a cultural problem, it's a religious problem, it's a theological problem, it's a problem that the Muslim world has to sort out. I mean, because the real problem is jihadism is not a distortion of the faith. It's at the core of the faith. I'm not saying that all Muslims are jihadists, but it is hard to do the rhetorical work to disavow jihadism and pull it up by its roots and still sound like you are a an Orthodox Muslim. I mean, it's not an easy project. I'm not even sure it's a viable project in the end. So I'm definitely worried about this slow moving collision we are going to keep having with Islamic orthodoxy. But we should point out that fairly doctrinaire Muslims are still trying to do it, even in states that are not at all democratic or open. I mean, so the UAE and Saudi Arabia. I mean, they're disavowing their hardline clerics, um, and I believe ceasing to export jihadism the way they were. I mean, Saudi was funding jihadist inspired mosques all over the world for the longest time. I believe they have reined that in, or at least that's been reported. All of those changes are good, and so and those changes are possible, and it's pretty clear that the UAE doesn't want to become an ISIS-like society, and all of that's good. The problem is there's a very obvious place to stand within Islam to look at the UAE project and say, well, this is all just worldliness and corruption and apostasy, and the real Islam teaches exactly what the Islamic State has been saying all along, and we have to deal with that.
Speaking of that, is that true information? That is it the UAE that no longer is funding college education to the UK for fear of
Yeah.
radicalization? Wow.
Yeah, they're afraid that their students will be radicalized by the Muslims at Oxford and Cambridge and the London School of Economics, which tells you just how far this problem has spread. So,
Yeah.
convict the UAE of Islamophobia, if you like.
Yeah.
That will be amusing.
It seems many on the right and left are united against this war for different reasons, obviously. But which side's reasons worry you more?
I think the lefts, frankly, I mean, the rights, the America First dogmatism of the right and the anti-Semitism, the anti-Israel position of the right is it is what it is. I mean, it's easier for me to kind of take the measure of what's on the left is just fundamental moral confusion about everything I just said, right? I mean, they won't acknowledge that jihadism is even a problem. I mean, everything I just said is just pure Islamophobia and racism, as though that charge made any sense. I mean, the left has been gulled by Islamists. I mean, we've got people who jihadists would actually massacre if they had a chance, essentially championing the cause of jihadists, right? On our most elite university campuses, um, in a wide variety of organizations, left of center in the West. But the level of moral confusion is just astounding. So these are the useful idiots are on the left. I guess there's some useful idiots on the right for other reasons, but I don't know. It just again, the asymmetry here is worth noting. On the right, the cultural capture on the left has been of our most elite institutions, right? I mean, the moral confusion you see is in places like the New York Times and at Harvard University and foundations, and it's just the employees of all high status companies. I mean, this is that it's not we're not talking about Breitbart and Fox News and uh, organs of culture that advertise their confusion with every breath, right? I mean, this is these are our best institutions that have been vitiated by this form of anti-Semitism, this form of moral confusion, this form of apology for theocracy and atrocity. I mean, like if you walk through the front door of a mainstream liberal organization and start arguing for the rights of women and girls in the Muslim world, you are immediately painted as a racist Islamophobe, right? I mean, that's the center of gravity, left of center in our again our most elite institutions. So
But
that's
how
god
do you
awful.
explain that? How do you explain that? What I mean, what do you think they would say if you just pointed that out to them and said, "Let me just explain to you what life is like under that rule." Does that bother
Well,
you?
I've been in this situation before. I mean, for 25 years, I've found myself in these conversations face to face ever since September 11th. Um, it's been a long time since I've submitted to one in person, but no, I mean, I would be at academic conferences, and I would say something disparaging of the Taliban, and that proved controversial, right? I mean, it's just you
But if you
literally
tried to
meet.
walk somebody on the other side through this logic by
Yeah,
saying
you get
step by step,
just an utter stonewalling and kind of malfunctioning of the human brain. I mean, it becomes impossible to have the conversation. I mean, it's just there's a double standard etched into the this pseudo morality, which is, I mean, the it's like the utility function is here, I think, see everything in terms of white supremacy and oppressor oppressed relationships, and avoid racism at all costs, right? That's kind of the master value. And so any criticism of Islam, even of theocrats who are killing women for showing their hair, even theocrats who are performing genital mutilation on girls, if you criticize them, you are at minimum risking being racist. Again, that makes no sense, that claim, but uh, and certainly Islamophobic, right? So that's that's where the conversation stops. We can't care about those girls. We can't care about those women. Your pretension to care about those girls and women is just a cover for your racism and Islamophobia. And as a white guy, you can't be talking about this at all anyway, right? So the conversation's over before it starts. And these are the most maddening encounters I've ever had in my life. I'm literally had conversations with women who have PhDs who are, who um, live happily in the West, who are open-minded about, female genital mutilation and the life of women in burqas in Afghanistan. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
okay, so you're getting pushback from the chat. Mainstream progressives do not believe that stuff, Sam. Don't confuse them
I've
with the
met them
extreme
face to
left.
face. Oh, okay. So, well, then we're just talking about words. So then show me your mainstream progressive who isn't going to think the last 15 minutes was just an eructation of Islamophobia, and then I'll grant that that person's sane. But just in the ledger of your imagination, imagine all the people who think that what I just expressed was white identity politics or racism or Islamophobia, right? Anyone who check any of those boxes, that's who I'm talking about. Are those
Yeah.
mainstream progressives or not?
I don't know. Should we let's just pause for a second. Just do we want to see if that person would like to
Sure.
um, lay out the view a little bit more clearly so that you can respond to it?
Oh yeah, I would love any follow up on that. I mean, it's like either you're going to understand what jihadism is, and you're going to understand the complicity of confused leftists and Muslim apologists who are not themselves jihadists, but many of whom are Islamists, and many of whom are just sufficiently conservative and identified with their religious sectarianism, such that they're not They're going to criticize the Danish cartoonists who are being hunted by maniacs, not the maniacs who are hunting them, right?
Yeah.
They're going to, when the Charlie Hebdo cartoonists get slaughtered in their conference room, um, their first question is going to be, well, what were those cartoons? What did they draw? Right? Yeah. So I'm talking about people like Glenn Greenwald, right? I'm not. It's a very large footprint in our culture of confused people.
All right. Well, unfortunately, the person has decided that they do not want to give a
The
follow up. But if
person,
anybody
the
else in
person
the
hung himself.
audience, yeah, if
Yeah.
anybody else in the audience, you'd be helping us here actually if you
Yeah.
could represent that viewpoint. We can come
Yeah.
back
No. I
for it
mean,
if
no,
they
yeah.
want.
I realize. Well, so there's no way I can satisfy everyone in the audience on this point because I recognize that on some level it's not about it's not about a rational argument because we're not going to agree about what is real in the world, right? So the moment I say, okay, jihadists can't get nuclear weapons, and here's why, what I'm dealing with a significant percentage of the audience is people who think that jihadists only exist in my imagination, right? Like there really are no people who think they're going to get to paradise by blowing themselves up on an airplane, and like that's not real. These people are either mentally ill or they have other motives. They've been so mistreated by the Israelis or by Western powers, or there's some other explanation. It's not religion. It's not sincere belief in paradise. So insofar as I can't land that argument with some number of people, those people will never accept anything else I have to say on this topic. But those people are delusional, right? I mean, they're just simply they're not in contact with what's really happening in our world, and this has been obvious at least since September 11th, but it was obviously obvious long before that.